The Perpetual Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 53. Come on.
I was on mute. Let's go!
Let's go.
The first full week of the NHL season, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the first week of our new year.
The first week of our new year.
And
How are we feeling about this?
We're not starting off great there, Junior. We had technical difficulties the first time we tried this episode, and we're doing it virtually because you are on day-to-day with a lower body injury. You pulled some sort of something, which we won't mention on this podcast, and we had to do this virtually. Thank you very much.
Why would we have to do this virtually if I pulled something?
I don't know what's going on out there.
No, there was fear it was gastro, but it seems to have been more of a food poisoning than gastro. But to be safe, we're keeping our distance, and we should be back all in the same room next week. And speaking of week, the first week of the NHL the first full week of the NHL season started off with a bang.
You got this, Junior. You can do it.
8-7 victory of the Ottawa Senators in a matinee game in Ottawa.
Norris looks good.
Happy Thanksgiving to those fans and to you guys and your families and the listeners.
Hey, anything you guys are thankful for?
Hey, being healthy, family, and hockey.
My co-hosts and the listeners, of course.
Being able to spend time with family this weekend was very thankful for that.
The usual. Very thankful. Any turkey?
Too much. I had turkey Sunday and turkey Monday. So it's enough turkey for a while. And I still have leftovers for the entire week. So we're going to be making some sandwiches or something.
That's how Nick feels right now.
By next week, Nick is gonna look like a turkey.
Well said.
Oh my goodness.
All
right. So
Junior.
this episode, we're kind of like going back to our in-season ways, in-season producing. If that makes any sense, right? We have our odd man rush, our waiver wire pickups of the week, our 3 stars of the week. And we end it with basically hot topics like who the slow starters, the quick starters, and who we're ready to give up on and who we're starting a dumpster fire with. Should be fun because there's some interesting names on that list. Early overreactions. But let's start with our odd man rush. All right. So let's start with the first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini, who had a multi-point game in his home opener, or his NHL opener, I guess, only to find himself instantly on IR after that. Talk about a crazy NHL debut. Nick, I'll let you start with this one, seeing as you had an interesting... you skipped on him to start. So let the listeners know what happened this week.
So episode 52 happened where I ended up picking from San Jose, and I decided that I was going to pick my rookie for that draft right away. And I said Will Smith because Victor Nuño had convinced me Will Smith is the way to go. And probably Victor Nuño is not often wrong. So I'm pretty sure that it will be. But I kind of had a little bit of doubt there. And I saw Celebrini luckily score, because I don't know if you actually saw that goal, but he didn't
Yeah.
actually shoot anywhere. It was a pass that was deflected off the defenseman and went into
They
his
don't
own
ask
net.
how.
They only
They
ask how
ask how
many.
many.
But he had an assist that game too. He looked like he belonged. And so I said to myself, you know what? Instead of Will Smith, I'm going to use my one waiver pickup of the week, and I will change Will Smith to Celebrini. And the moment I do that, Celebrini lands on IR. So this week's waiver wire pickup, the only one I have, was undoing that mistake and putting Will Smith back into my lineup and getting rid of Celebrini from my lineup. So it's been an interesting start to the season. I'm in third place, and I'm expecting to stay in third place the entire season.
Oh, maybe we should update. We'll leave Vince to update
I'm sure Vince
standings.
will update everything.
Yeah, well, of course. Why wouldn't, you know? So Nick is in third place, like he said, with 48 points. Team Junior is keeping it close at 58 points. And Team Vince is up front at 67, but has an injury this week in Matthew Kachuk.
Are you
So
going to
he's
be
in,
switching using your waiver pickup?
I gotta check and make sure nobody else has Florida players because I don't want to lose Matthew Kachuk, but I'll check as the week goes by. They're playing 4 games this week, so yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make a little switch maybe.
Yeah, well, Barkov is injured, so
Yeah.
that'd be an interesting pickup to see who you're going to pick up there.
That's
I
a
don't
big
think
one.
any of else had a Florida player.
No, I don't think so. It's gonna be probably Reinhardt. I mean, he's still available, so we'll see. We'll keep you posted on it.
Quick thought on Celebrini before we move on to the next one.
Listen, Celebrini, it's an injury. You're gonna expect it. He's a young guy. He got. I mean, what else is there to say about him? You know, we know he's gonna produce. He's done well at the beginning for first few games. We're just gonna have to see how long he's on IR for. That's the only thing.
All right. Well, Seamus Casey has emerged in New Jersey. You guys obviously know that Luke Hughes started the year off injured, and Casey came in and kind of took that second power play role. Hamilton is really your top offensive defenseman in that team, but Casey has actually shown that he belongs. And out of the 5 games that they've played so far, Seamus has 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points, 66-point pace. Not that we actually think that's going to last. And a 75% shooting percentage, which obviously will not last. But what I'm looking at mostly is the fact that he's actually looking like he belongs. And this is not a player that we expected him to be in the lineup this year. So a nice little response from New Jersey and some of that young depth coming into play here to replace Luke Hughes.
Yeah, look, I had Hamilton. I traded him away because I had Nemec, so I went to get him as his what do you call it when someone takes over for you? Anyway,
Presser, what's it called?
Hamilton would have been the predecessor. Anyhow,
Hmm.
only to find out that Luke Hughes was above him on the depth chart. So then Luke Hughes is injured. I'll go reacquire Hamilton in hopes that he'd be the offensive prowess of this team on defense, only for a rookie named Seamus Casey to come out of nowhere and have 4 points in 3 games while Hamilton has 0 and 5. So not very happy, but I think this is something that'll slowly, the table will turn slowly as the season goes along. In the next week or so, I expect Hamilton to get a few more points than Casey does, but I've seen crazier things.
Hamilton doesn't look bad though. He
No,
looks
looks
good.
pretty
He's
good.
taking shots. He's looking good.
Is this worrisome about? Is this worrisome when it comes to Nemec?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you rely on him heavily for points, it is a bit worrisome. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know if there's room for all of them. If they think Casey is ready, maybe Nemec finds himself on another team, or maybe it's Casey that finds himself on another team. Because Nemec seems to be the more all-around defenseman of the three, according to what most people are saying.
Well, we've seen in Buffalo, right? You have a number 1 overall pick in Dahlin. You have a number 1 overall pick in Powers. You have a number 4 overall pick in Bowen Byram. All three of them seem to be kind of intertwining right now, and maybe you would rather have the number 1 power play guy from this team, but this might kind of be where Nemec sits, right? That third guy or that second guy on that pecking order. We'll see how it develops.
Okay, I'm just worried. I have Nemec, that's why I'm a little worried. I'm not gonna lie.
He's still
Tipikov.
young. You have time.
Yeah, Tipikov. KHL players, usually when they come to the NHL, there's always questions on how they're gonna adapt. Are they gonna fit in? Road record for KHL players coming into the NHL isn't very good. What are your thoughts about his first few games with the Islanders?
Well, he looks like he belongs as a player, right? So you said that there's not a lot of good history of KHL players coming over. There's Panarin, who came over and had a great like instant impact in the NHL. I don't see Tsiplikov being that, but I see him being somebody a little bit like Gusev, who actually came over from the KHL and is still finding himself, but is good enough to be maybe a middle sixer in the NHL. And I think that's where Tsiplikov is. He's playing top 6 right now in the Islanders, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The Islanders, I was hoping a little more offense out of the gate. Doesn't seem necessarily like this has happened yet, but who knows? They're kind of one. They're tied 1-1 right now
You
with
got it,
Colorado.
Nick.
So let's see.
They're
I think we're
actually
all
winning.
day to day in this
They're,
podcast.
they're
by the way.
actually winning 2-1 versus Colorado, but it comes down to expectations. What you expected of him coming into the NHL. For me, it was like you said, middle 6. Nothing crazy. Definitely not the next Panarin, but given the opportunity, could be very productive fantasy wise. And he is getting a cup of tea on the power play 1. He does have a goal in 3 games, only 14 to 15 minutes of ice time a game. So it's not great, but there's also an adaptation period from someone coming from the KHL, the bigger surface, to the NHL. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think it's still something to monitor.
3-1 Islanders over Colorado.
Wow.
Oof,
We'll see how that goes.
Georgia. Yeah.
Well, Joseph Woll, this one is for you, Junior, because we had a big discussion about Joseph Woll, and I had mentioned it that it's not responsible for us to suggest Joseph Woll's a tier 1 goalie or a tier 2 goalie when he's never played over 40 games in the NHL because he often gets injured. And you said, no, there's no injury concerns here. You should definitely put all your eggs in the Joseph Woll basket. And trust me, I'm quoting this directly from your words, okay? But there was kind of a rumor before that opening game against the Habs that Woll, is kind of feeling a little bit of tightness in the lower body. And then all of a sudden, Hildeby gets called up, and we still don't know what's going on with Woll. Stolarz is named the starter, and Woll lands on IR. So tell me I was right.
Tell me that you're sorry, didn't think I'd turn around and say that it's too late to apologize.
Oh boy. Look, I don't think he was ever going to get 60 games or anything like that. But it is a little worrisome that he can't even start the year. That being said, I do think a lot of this has to do with track record. So a lot of it is probably more precaution. Vince is showing us his chest.
A lot of
Sorry,
noise
I
coming
got
from Vince.
distracted.
my phone's gonna die, so I'm trying to find a charger that actually works in this house.
All right, so
back
while
to
Vince is
Woll.
doing
Sorry,
that,
back to Woll. It seems you may have been right. I have to admit, I won't. I'll eat crow here, and I'll say you're right. But I do think a lot of it has to do with precaution due to his track record, and I think that is the smartest decision they can make. In the time being, though, I think Stolarz is a good pickup in the waiver wire if he's still available.
That's right. I think Solars is a good pickup. He played a very good game against the Habs, even though they lost 1-0. He had a very good game. Then they went on with Hildebeest and
The Hill the
beat.
Beast.
They went and they beat their former coach in New Jersey, and then they went and beat their former GM in Pittsburgh. So it's quite a bit of good. Good. There's a lot of noise in the background there, but quite a bit of good
My,
things
my wife,
happening for
my wife
Toronto.
decided that it was the best point to throw the noisiest thing into the garbage and squash it. So,
It's a good
sorry
thing that
about
we don't
that.
get paid for this podcast.
We love you,
It's all
Tanya.
right.
Vince, anything you want to add on Wool?
Listen, I have him in one of my leagues. It's disappointing I had to put him already on IR because in that league I went really. I kept my goalies for like very late, the late round, so he was left. And then when I did try to pick up Stolars, like Nick said, someone had already picked them up. So it's just a reminder you got to be quick on the trigger when things like this happen because there are people that are waiting in front of their computer, waiting to pick up that one guy that's going to benefit them for that week.
Yeah, odds are maybe a little tip here. If you think you have time to pick someone up, odds are you probably don't. Someone's already thought of it. Right? Nothing slips through anybody anymore. Yes, my boy. My Calder candidate, Lane Hudson, had 2 multi-point games. Does this help elevate concerns, Vince, that you had about his progression?
Listen, no, because we all knew he was offensively gifted. I never said he wasn't offensively gifted. My issue was teams are going to start game planning against him. And this is where he's going to have to adapt. And this is where I think the learning curve is going to be. Just an example, today against Pittsburgh, we are Monday. We're recording on Monday, obviously. So they lost 6-3. He was a -4 with 25 minutes ice time. No, so
25 minutes ice
yeah.
time.
See, I don't. It's like to me, Gooley has 19 minutes ice time. Hudson has 25 minutes. I don't think he should be having more minutes than Gooley. But this is what's going to happen with Hudson. When the Habs are losing, he's going to get the ice time because he's the one guy who can make offense happen. But when it's closer games, I feel that's when his ice time will diminish. Now, I have no expectations for the Habs this year. I was very clear with that. I think Habs are going to get another top 5 pick this year because I don't think they're ready. So I don't mind what they're doing right now. Like this -4 doesn't bother me because I feel it's a learning curve. And I feel St. Louis, Hudson is playing the way he's playing because he's not afraid to being nailed to the bench if he makes a mistake. St. Louis is very forgiving when it comes to that, right? So I think it's nice, but I think there'll be more games of him being -4 than games of him having multi-point games. I still don't think he's going to hit the 50-point threshold like you said this year, just because I feel game 30 to 31, that's when he's going to hit that NCAA wall when they're not used to playing 82 NHL games.
Well, the rookie wall is a real thing. You're absolutely right about that, Vince. But we have to say one thing is that he's playing 20, 25 minutes a game, depending on the way the game's going, right? Like
Yeah,
you
the
said, you
context.
need more offense. The game plan is moving a certain direction. But his expected goals for is like an 80% when he's on the ice for the Habs. And that's a big increase compared to what they've had before in the past. So he's generating all kinds of offense. He's finding seams just not only on his like deeks and his edges on his skating, but he's actually doing very well on passes and finding guys open that I didn't even see it until the last minute there. So, and I'm watching from on top, right? So he's very creative. He looks very good. I think he's definitely going to be a player. He's definitely going to be a good player, unique player. I don't know about this year, like you said, right? We're talking about somebody that's a little bit young, and he's going to have his rookie games. He's going to have his
Yeah.
ups and downs. And hopefully he has more ups than downs for the Habs this year. But it looks good going forward.
And Nick, to your point, Martin Saint Louis, he did say how his teammates still have to learn how to play with him. Like he sees the ice in a whole different way, and there's an adaptation period for his teammates to put themselves in the right position as well. All that comes together, right? But definitely there's going to be a rookie wall. I mean, he's not going to go... I almost feel like it's going to be either a multi-point game or a -4. Like he'll never have 0 points, zero, like even strength. I think it's either or because of the style he plays. Anyhow, but at least if they're going to keep him in the NHL, then play him and live with his mistakes.
Am I next? Yeah. I am now a believer in Dylan freaking Gunter. Gwenter. Gunter's wrestler, no? Gwenter. Nick, Gunther. This kid has come out of the gates flying this year. What's your thoughts, Nick?
Well, last year I told Junior that I'm not sure what to believe because I hadn't seen enough of Dylan Gunter. And this year, I could definitely say that I have seen enough. He is absolutely a sniper. He will surpass that 18 goals that he did last year, hands down. He already has 5 goals in 4 games, and only 2 of those were on the power play. So we're talking about somebody that's producing in all situations. Granted, his 41% shooting percentage is not going to last. And his 103 goal pace is not going to last either. It's very early in the season.
You sure?
But and he's doing this with only 14 and a half minutes on ice, right? Like he's showing that he has a great shot. He's on a hot streak right now to start the year, and the sky's the limit for this kid, goal scoring wise. I think you're easily seeing maybe a person that could hit 25 to 30 goals just this year alone. And he's only 21 years old.
Well, he had 18 in 45 games last year. So I think at this rate, you expect him to, and that was his sophomore year, if you will. So I expect him to hit 25 to 30. But man, what a fun team to watch. We kind of all predicted this to start the year, that Utah was going to come out on fire, new city, new environment, new ownership. It was only going to propel them to better things, and we're seeing a glimpse of that. Does that die down a little bit? At some point, I expect it to, but I think Gwenter's still going to score. A scorer is still going to score.
That's right. Vince, what's the next topic?
Next one, another player from Utah that we're talking about, Barrett Hayton. Is this the year he breaks out? I know we had this discussion this year. We said this is like a make it or break it for Hayton this year because couldn't stay healthy. Still a question. I mean, we're only 4 games in, right? But 4 games in, and he's showing that he can play. Junior, what do you think?
I mean, he was drafted into like a pretty horrible situation. I don't think anyone who was drafted to Arizona, especially him, though, he was kind of expected to be the next best thing there, to back up Keller. And with everything we know now, I'm kind of not surprised he didn't develop as we expected. He is 24 years old, and others have developed despite him not. And 5 points in 4 games to start the year. Some people just take longer to develop. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I'd be happy for him, though, to see him succeed.
103 goal pace, point pace.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to be like, but if he can at least hit 60 points, it'll be fun. Like it'll be something to build off. Even 50 points.
I'm happy
best
Utah
was 43.
started off on fire.
They're such a fun team to watch.
They're fun to watch. Ingram looks good. They beat the New York Rangers.
What a match that was.
That was a fun match.
It had everything. First of all, it was like Milan Lucic made a return and smashed the goalie. No? Who was it that body checked Ingram? I don't know. Anyways, it had it all. It was amazing.
It was a fun game. Yeah. Cooley actually looks pretty decent too.
Oh, it was him. It was Cooley that hit the goalie.
That's why I said
as an assist man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. The one Nick loves to talk about. The one he paid a ransom to acquire, and the one he paid a ransom to get rid of. The one and the only Jonathan Huberdeau is on fire. Nick, do you regret having paid to get rid of him? Or is this not sustainable?
I think I'm allergic to players with that last name starts with the letter H, right? Hamilton traded for nothing. Huberdeau traded twice. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but he started on fire. You're absolutely right, Junior. And we kind of saw this though at the end of last year, right? He was really picking it up. His teammates really were playing well with him. 3 games played, 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points to start this year. 137 point pace. It's fun, these point paces in the first week of the season. But he actually looks really good. It's weird. Calgary's a weird team. They've actually started the year really, really well, and you were thinking that this team is one that's looking to tank, and they're looking to sell off all their assets and rebuild, and yet they have players that are producing.
Yeah, they have young players that are stepping up, and I feel coaching also has a big thing to do this year with that Calgary team. A lot of veterans are buying into what the coach is selling. Listen, do I think Huberdeau can keep the pace up and go back to being a 90 to 100 point player? No. I feel at one point they're going to come back to reality, but it wouldn't shock me if he gets into that 70 to 80 points at the end of the year. Now, in a dynasty league, I still don't think it's enough points to pay 10.5 million for. But if you're in a, listen,
In a
if
cap
he's
league,
not
you mean?
in
Yeah,
a,
I
yeah,
agree.
in a cap league, it'll be tough. But if you're in a no cap league and there's waivers and he's there, he's the first player you pick up.
Guys, that does it for our first odd man rush of the new NHL season.
Oh, play the team song. Come on. Oh, come on.
Odd Man Rush.
That wasn't my
before we
fault.
go-
I pressed it, but there was like a gap before it started. I don't know who
Before we
recorded
move
it.
on,
I'm not going to mention any names.
before we move on
No,
to the
Nick, I want to keep
selection,
interrupting you.
I mentioned there was an injury that we had mentioned the first time that we tried recording this podcast that we should mention again. Kachuk injured, Barkov injured, and I believe that you are an owner of Kachuk, Vince, in our
Yes.
producer co-host league.
Yeah.
Obviously, your target after that would probably be
Barkov? But
No,
he's
Reinhardt,
Barkov, but he's injured.
But he's injured.
So
Yeah.
Reinhardt
But
next.
I'm actually gonna go pick him up now because it says that he's sidelined for at least a week. Kachuk.
Okay. And Florida plays what 4 times this week?
Four times this week. I didn't. When we get into the waiver pickups, we'll let everybody know which teams are playing more.
And Verhaeghe
But
signed an extension too on that
They
team.
they played they played today. They had a matinee game versus the Bruins, and I think they won 4-3. Reinhardt 2 goals, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I should have picked him up this morning. But I didn't think.
Just a bit outside.
Yeah, I didn't think he was injured for that long. He just came out now that it's going to be for a week. So
So
will
we do
see.
our 3 stars. Do we have a soundbite for 3 stars?
We used to have shooting stars, but since we went on YouTube, we were getting flagged for copyright infringement. So we haven't come up with all our sound bites just yet. So as of right now, we do not have. But maybe I can play this one for you guys here. Maybe this will work.
It's definitely not going to work, Nick.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Pretty sure we're gonna get flagged for that too. But anyways,
Definitely.
actually, that could be good for the waiver wire pickups because they could be money.
Oh,
Money
some
pickups.
fab leagues, right? FAB leagues.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. Do you want to start the honorable mentions?
Sure. Why don't you do the honorable mention, and then I'll do the 3-star, and then I'll have producer Vince do 2nd star.
Excellent. All right. So Vince's goalie in our partial breakaway podcast draft. Hellebuck has three games played last week, 3 wins, a 976 save percentage, 1 shutout. 2 of those were wins. The wins were in OT. Also shared with Montembeault, another honorable mention. 2 games played, 2 wins, 1 shutout, 985 save percentage before this game tonight, which was a little brutal. 47 save shutout versus the Maple Leafs. Probably starting to make a name for himself for Team Canada at the Olympics. We'll see where that goes. The third star.
Third star of the week. We already mentioned him already, and it could have gone a couple of ways here. Jack Eichel was one of them that I was considering for third star. But
another one of Vince's players.
Another one of Vince's players, correct.
That might be a theme throughout this season.
Stop mentioning that league, because that league really is a battle between second and third place, and not who's going to finish first. But I'm going to go with Dylan Guenther again. And I know we just mentioned him, guys. I'm sorry for repeating the same name. Could have gone with Eichel here, but 4 games played, 5 goals, and only 2 of them on the power play is just too good to pass up. It's only 1 week in, so there's a lot of people that have had a good amount of points, or similar points, I should say. But Dylan Guenther is the only one that has 5 goals. So I added him here instead of Eichel.
Makes sense to me. Seeing as we might have lost Vince, I'll go with the
Why don't
second.
you do second star?
I'll go with the second star. Anze Kopitar, 3 games played, 3 goals, 3 assists, 1 power play goal, 3 power play assists, so 4 power play points. The one that doesn't age, the ageless one. Like, year in and year out, people don't draft him because he's getting old. He's getting old. He's getting old. But if there is a point in time to draft him, it's always at the beginning of your draft. Because he fades in the second half of the season.
Oh, okay. You mean like have him on your team the first...
Your initial draft, and then not to pick him up as a waiver wire, because then he loses value. You have to have him from the beginning because he always comes out of the gates flying. So
but,
last week...
if he's still available in your league, would you recommend him here?
Right now, yes. Of course. Of course. Until you ride him until he hits a wall. And today he continued off that 6-point pace in 3 games. He had another 3 points today versus the Ottawa Senators in that 8-7 marathon. So Anze Kopitar, the ageless one, was our second star. And if by some chance is still available in your leagues, definitely worth a pickup. Nick, finish it off.
Well,
Vince just got disconnected completely. All right, we're a 2-man show going forward for now.
He'll come back.
His phone probably died.
Yeah, probably. He could have charged before the game, before the podcast. It's funny. Clark had a good game today. Clark had a very good game on defense for LA. And Laferriere had a very good game as well.
Not to be confused with Lafreniere.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good as well. So I just wanted to mention those 2 guys because the LA Kings have a few guys that are doing very well. I was really hoping for Jordan Spence to do something. He hasn't done much. Only 1 assist in 3 games played so far. But we'll see. Maybe that's going to improve moving forward.
Am I back?
You are
Yes,
back, sir. You are back. Do you want to do the first star since you missed your second star?
Sure, why not? Because my phone's a whack job. First star, first star of the week. Mark Scheifele, 3 games played, 4 goals, 2 assists, 1 power play goal, 2 power play assists, 1 game-winning goal. Winnipeg started off on fire at the beginning of the season. I mean, with Hellebuck, Scheifele, even Kyle Connor. So it's a team that we all thought was going to struggle this year, and they've surprised a lot of us. And we'll talk about other teams that are not surprising us, that are struggling, that we thought could have had a better start of the season.
Nick, do you own Mark Scheifele in our draft, in our league?
I have no idea who I own anymore in our league.
Which
I stopped
league
paying
was
attention.
Some GM, this guy, eh?
I stopped paying attention after Vince got all the good ones.
I'm just jealous.
Says the
Let me
guy who owns
see.
McDavid, Matthews, and Marner.
No, he does not have Shackley.
All right.
All
Oh,
right.
well, that does it for our 3 stars of the week. Let's move on to the nitty gritty here. What most listeners are interested to hear. Who are we picking up this week and why?
Some weird names this week for pickups, right?
Yeah. Well, the first one, is outproducing Jack Hughes. Paul Cotter, 43% owned, 5 points in 5 games played.
4 of them are goals.
Yeah.
4 of them are goals. And something tells me, out of all the names we're going to mention, that he might be a reoccurrence on our waiver wire pickups. I just have a feeling about him on that team because there is that opening as a winger in the top 6. And if he continues to take advantage of the opportunity he's getting, we're going to see him on this list a lot.
Paul Cotter is a good one. Stefan Nelson is a good one as well. 5 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists, only 23% owned. That's who I'm going with this week for my
Another
waiver wire
player
pickup.
outperforming Jack Hughes.
Yeah, I was looking at Seattle. Jordan Eberle. Seattle has not had a good start of the season. Has not scored a lot of goals like we spoke about when we previewed them, saying they're a bunch of second liner, third liners that don't have that talent for first liners on their team yet. But Jordan Eberle, 3 games played, named captain of the first. I think it's the first captain of the franchise, right? If I'm not mistaken, or was it
That's right.
Larson? No, it
No,
was.
it wasn't Larson.
Okay,
No,
so
Eberle was the first captain, yeah.
so 3 games played, 2 goals, 1 assist, 24% owned on roster. So might be a quick pickup for someone who's looking for offense, especially on the wing.
Well, you know what the funny thing is that I got more stocks in Veneers this year,
Hmm.
thinking that this might be a year that, he had a sophomore slump. He's going to come out this year and start putting up points again like he did in his rookie season. He had 57 points in his rookie season. He looked fantastic,
Yeah.
but nothing so far. So, anyways,
We're gonna talk about the Beniers.
we'll talk about the slow
Yeah,
starters, and he might be one of them.
exactly. But
Uh,
for everyone who has teams that are on a weekly lineup and are not sorry, do daily lineups and are weekly head to head, and you have waiver pickups where you can pick up players and drop players, this information might help you. So every week we're going to do where we tell you which teams play the most games during this week and which teams play the least games. So at least you'll know where to gauge yourself for picking up players during the week. So teams playing 4 games this week. There's 6 teams. Colorado is playing 4 games. Florida is playing 4 games. Los Angeles Kings are playing 4 games. New Jersey, Pittsburgh, and San Jose. So if you're looking for pickups, though you're looking for those teams because you're getting the most games out of them. The key teams that are playing the least amount this week. Winnipeg only has 2 games. Toronto only has 2 games. Minnesota only has 2 games. And Calgary only has 2 games. So those are teams you want to maybe avoid. The only team you might be looking at is Winnipeg. And the only reason I tell you that is because they play on a Sunday. So sometimes on that Sunday you're behind by a few points, or you're looking for those extra players to play to maybe get you in front in the final push for your week. Winnipeg is one that plays on Sunday, so they might help. But the rest, I would concentrate on the other 6 teams if you're looking for waiver pickups.
And to be clear, we're not saying bench Matthews and Marner and Nylander because they only play 2 games.
Definitely
Those are not the players we're talking about here, right? So, that's some very valid information. Take that into consideration heading into week 2 of the NHL season. And go ahead, Nick.
Sorry, I was going to say some leagues like our LPHL is a weekly locked league.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to consider those teams that are playing more games. But there's also other head-to-head leagues that are dailies. So those daily leagues, for example, might be that's where you go out and you use your waiver wire pickups on grabbing some of these guys that play more games to give you an advantage.
And to be fair, like it doesn't always work out, but more often than not it does. And I'll give you an example. I benched Alex Tuck last week because he only had 2 games because they were traveling back from Czech Republic, and he ended up getting three points or so in 2 games, which is pretty good. But considering the circumstances, I chose to bench him, and it didn't work out. But more often than not, it does. All right, moving on to the last topic of conversation, the slow starts and the names, the mega names on this list all happen to be on Team Nick. Is it time to panic with certain? Okay, let's start with the names that were already on the borderline of being given up on. Capo Caco. 3 games played, 1 assist. Doesn't seem to be too involved. Is it time to throw in the towel? Like, do you still have hope in Capo Caco? I know personally I already didn't have hope going into the season. Nick, I think you were hanging on still a little bit.
Look, I'm hanging on as a prayer and a hope. Victor had already said to us that he was somebody that you dropped last year and you don't pick up, so we'll see. But there's definitely a spot in that top 6. If Capo Caco doesn't do anything, I'm hoping Cooley goes in and grabs that spot. But yeah, 3 games played, 1 assist only. He doesn't seem very involved, like you said. It's only 3 games, so I'm going to hold on to him for the rest of the year anyways, and we'll see what happens. He's not. It's not a league that you can use waiver wire ads anyways. So I'm hoping he picks it up in the second half of the season. I'm not too confident. I don't know what to say. I'm not confident right now.
Yeah, I think the Rangers gave him opportunities and he just didn't when it
He
came
needs
to
a new.
reach. Yeah,
Yeah, he
but
needs a
even with
new
a
senior.
new, I feel he could be the next Jesse Puljujärvi, where he'll just be a wanderer playing on someone's third, someone hoping that they can just rediscover that talent that made him the second overall pick, or But I really don't feel like he won't be fancy relative anytime soon.
All right. Shall we move on to
Well, listen,
the big names?
another slow starter that nicknamed is Matthew Beniers. I thought he was going to come out guns blazing this year. Yeah. And Nick just went off camera. Bam! But yeah, he's, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm panicking, but I'm definitely worried about Seattle. Definitely worried about that
They're just
team.
not providing a lot of offense at all, like not coming from anybody.
And we
It's
thought with a different coach it was going to be a different situation, but it looks like it's the same situation.
it's just 1 week. It's just a couple of games.
Yeah.
So like obviously it's not time to panic, but definitely something to keep an eye. They weren't a team that scored many goals to begin with, but what worries me a lot is the goaltending situation for the Edmonton Oilers.
Only the Edmonton Oilers?
Well, 15 goals against in 3 games.
Oh, you should watch a game that's on now. There's another goalie that worries me
Yeah,
enormously,
he's another one.
which
Like,
is
what is it? Gorgiev? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, Georgiev. I mean, they're losing 4-1 right now. He's not looking good. And I mean, if we like 3 big teams that we thought was gonna start strong, started weak. Nashville hasn't had a win yet with all the new additions. Edmonton hasn't had a win with Draisaitl and McDavid, and Colorado hasn't had a win and are losing now.
And
So
I said 15 goals was concerning for the Oilers in 3 games. Colorado is at 18 goals against in 2 games and 2 periods.
man,
That is
that's
brutal. And at least they've scored 8 goals in the first 2 games and still lost, like 4 goals. The Oilers are not scoring at all, so that's gonna the table's gonna turn there. But Colorado, man, I think we might, if this keeps up one more week, I think we're gonna have the first coach firing heading into week 3 of the season.
I think, and if a Noonan is available for anybody to pick up, I just want to check on my Yahoo league if he's available to pick up, and he isn't. He's gonna take Georgiev's spot. There's no way they go with Georgiev the next game.
But he hasn't been very good either, Anunin,
In relief.
in relief, and they picked up Kakkonen off waivers. So I wonder what that dynamic is now.
Well,
I
just
just not.
to give you guys
Go
an
ahead.
idea, I drafted Anunin in one of my leagues, and I was offered a first round pick for Anunin and Lekiramaki together, and I ended up doing it, but because that person is probably finishing bottom 5 anyway, so it's a very good pick for next year. But I targeted Anunin this year because I knew that Georgiev isn't necessarily showing much, right? I know it's a contract year for him, so we were hoping that he would do something, but it's looking like there's going to be maybe a change somewhere there in Colorado.
And but do you think that Annunen can take that, or do you think Colorado picked up Kakkonen because they have no faith in any of their goalies right now?
Well, Anunin is a player that I think he has the talent to do it, and Colorado's expecting him to have the talent to do it. The only thing right now is, he has to start a game. He hasn't really started a
Hmm.
game to say he's coming in relief, and it's very hard to come in relief and perform well. But I think it's a wider Colorado issue than it is just an Anion or
Yeah.
Georgiev issue right now.
And we don't usually see McKinnon lose his cool all that often. And in game 2 of the regular season, he had already lost it. So something's boiling in Denver, and it's not looking good.
What about Nashville? Is Nashville's beginning the season because of all the new additions and the chemistry is not maintained yet, or is this just a team that brought in too many new faces and are not going to be able to? There's not enough puck to go around.
Well, I would say that with so many changes at once, you're expecting a little bit of finding chemistry, finding that, um, you know, gelling together. And I think you
Hmm.
have to give them kind of that leeway. If I'm not mistaken, last year the team that had big changes like this, it took them until game 30 really to start picking it up. So that's what I'm expecting for Nashville. I'm expecting around game 30 for them to pick it up this year and really show what they could do. And I have faith in them. I mean, come on, we're talking about one of the best goalies in the world. We're talking about some of the best shooters in the world. I think they're definitely a contender for the playoffs.
I
And
think game 30 is a little late.
Yeah.
It's a little. They're no Edmonton Oilers, that's for sure. Edmonton Oilers can go 30 games without being Edmonton Oilers, and then we saw it last year.
well, I'm not
But
saying they're
for
going to lose every game.
Nashville, right? I mean, look. At the end of the day, we're talking about a 2-game losing streak for the Predators, right? Like none of this is super dramatic, but it still needs to be mentioned and talked about because the expectations are high. So anytime expectations are high and you start off slow,
Hmm.
once the doubt starts creeping in, it could be a snowball effect, and you could be 1-10 for all you know after 10, 11 games. So definitely some talking points there. Uh, look, McDavid, are we worried about him at all? I mean, he got a point in his last game, but obviously not very worried about McDavid.
No, but with Edmonton, I'm worried about Skinner.
Got
Skinner
his first
worries.
goal last game, not
No,
losing
not
cause.
Skinner the player, Skinner the goalie worries me
Oh,
with Edmonton. But also, how hurtful is it that they didn't qualify Broberg and they traded CC because they thought this Emberson guy was going to be, you know, able to replace these players. And trust me, I watched one of their games and he looked lost on the ice, like absolutely lost. So, like, do they have a depth problem
they
in
had one
Edmonton?
before they lost Broberg.
Yeah, but they offensively they solidified it with Arvidsson and Skinner and picking up. But now there's a problem that they solidified it offensively, but then let go defensively, because defensively they look bomb-related in their own end. Like, they do not look.
Yeah, they look a little lost there.
Yeah.
Like Emberson, Ty Emberson is somebody that I picked up because I was desperate for goaltending for defensemen that are very, very cheap. And I'm like, Edmonton scores a lot of goals, so this guy's going to actually get some assists somewhere there. And meanwhile, he's like a -5, I think, to start the season, which is not exactly where I wanted my team to go. But look, it's still early also. We have to realize that it's a new player coming into a new situation. Maybe it's going to take a little bit of time. He has not looked good so far. So we'll see where it goes. Like, all these slow starts that we're talking about now, like including Capocacco, like, this is still overreaction Monday, right? We're talking about something that is 1 week into the season. So there's still a lot of time for all of these storylines to correct themselves and to turn themselves on their head. So we'll see. We'll see.
One more for you.
All right, just because you wanted to add something, huh?
Zero goals in 3 games. Does it have anything to do with the C or Berube? What are we putting into the fact that Matthews hasn't scored a goal in 3 games?
We are putting into the fact that people still believe he can score 70 goals this year, which is not the case. I believe Matthews will hit 50 goals. And a prime example is, remember last year with Ovechkin? Ovechkin was 8 goals after Christmas, and everybody's like, this guy is washed, and then ended the season with 35 goals or 36 goals. So I think the problem with the people who are questioning Matthews are people that believe he can aim for that 70 goal again, which I think is unrealistic. Last year was a magical year for him, but to me, Matthews, a realistic goal is 60. 60 is realistic because that's how good he is. But yeah, I feel it's a bit of an overreaction. Some of these fans saying, "Oh, he's got 0 goals." I think the expectations were a little too high for Austin Matthews.
I'm not even going to comment. I think that's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
I'm not giving up on Matthews either. I just wanted to stir the pot a little bit, considering he got to see, and we spoke about all that drama. But look, he can get a hat trick next game, and then he's got 3 goals in 4 games. So it could change on a dime. I mean, look, 70 is still possible, I guess. I'll never doubt him, that's for sure.
All right, cue the outro.
Oh, yeah. Where is that again?
Oh, man.
Oh, man. We really need producer Vince back in the studio.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, maybe if
100%.
producer Vince labeled his sounds.
It says outro.
Nope.
That's not... It says outro. It's the
It does.
purple one to
It
the
is
right
labeled.
in the second page.
No, there's no outro on the second page. Oh, it's the yellow one. Yes, here we go. All right. That does it for episode 53. The first full week of the NHL season is over. It started with a lot of action, and we look forward to that continuing. Follow us on socials, YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok at Partial Break Pod. Leave us reviews, comments, likes, and subscribe. That helps us keep going and get more attention. So anything you guys want to add before we go?
No, just enjoy it, man. Enjoy this week, and we'll see where our players are at.
And we apologize for the virtual today. It's but I'm glad we actually did it. We still did not take a day off, so
There
happy
you
about
go.
that.
And there's a good chance that this outro music was way too loud. You probably didn't hear us. But it's okay. Have a good week. Next week will be better, all right?
Have a good night, boys.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
You know, Junior, you actually have to stop the recording, eh?